MarTechTalk, the live webinar with no presentations, no PowerPoint, just talk.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever your time zone. Welcome. This is MarTechTalk. I am your host, Kevin Crane. Welcome to the show. I'm so pleased to be debuting as the new host for this show this week. So thank you for having me. I promise to be an inquisitive and thoughtful host. We'll find out because we are here today to talk about demand generation. It's an important topic, and we'll be looking at ways to convert your strategic vision for demand generation into practical tactics that move the needle. Looking at customer need, the product that you're offering, and effective actions to bring awareness to that product that will translate into promising leads and ultimately, we hope, profitable customers. With demand generation, you've got to spread awareness about your product. You've got to create interest in the minds of consumers, position your product in the market against competitive offerings, and persuade your customers to love it and to buy it and to keep coming back for more. You know, it all sounds straightforward, but it's not always easy to do. Leads don't always convert into customers. It's easy to target the wrong customers, and it's becoming more and more difficult to create and deliver marketing content that makes a dent with all the competing content and messaging out there. As a result, demand generation is the top tool for most marketers today. Indeed, researchers tell us that 91% of marketers say that demand generation is their most important goal this year, and 53% of marketers will spend at least half of their budget on lead generation. As a result, demand generation spending in general in the US hit well over $3 billion last year, and this figure is expected to increase to almost $3.5 billion in the US in 2023. So, what are some strategies and best practices that we should consider with demand generation? How can you translate your strategic vision into campaigns that make the mark? And what tips and tools can we use to gain an edge? That's what we'll be discussing today with a great panel of guests. But before I introduce our guests today, I do want to say that we want to hear from you too. I'd like to encourage everyone attending today to participate. So please join in with your comments in the chat section. And if you have a question along the way for our guests, please enter them into the Q&A feature. That's where I'll be watching for questions, and I will attempt to get some of them into the flow of the show, and we'll have a few minutes at the end for your questions. All right, with all of that, let's bring on our guests today, starting with Suzanne Corbo. Suzanne is Senior Director of Marketing for Nextivity. Suzanne, are you with us?
I am.
Hello, Suzanne. Welcome aboard. Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling from San Diego this morning.
San Diego. Very good. We have a trip planned for San Diego and looking forward to visiting for my first time there. So welcome aboard from beautiful San Diego.
You are going to eat well and enjoy the sun. So.
Sounds good to me. All right. Also with Suzanne is Jamie Grabert. Jamie is the Chief Marketing Officer at Maple. Jamie, are you with us? Hello, Jamie.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
There you are. We can see and hear you. Hello, Jamie. Welcome aboard. Where are you calling in from?
Today we're calling in from the Russian River, but normally we're in the San Francisco Bay Area. So
nice. All right. Very good. Welcome aboard. Thank you, Jamie, for being with us.
Thanks
also
for
with us
having me.
today is Marina Divalia. Marina is Marketing Advisor for Playbook Lab. Marina, are you with us?
Hi, I'm here. Thank you for having me.
Hello, hello. And where are you calling in from, Marina?
From steamy, hot Washington, D.C.
Ooh, yes, I heard about that. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And also with us is Sam Wiltshire. Sam is Head of Digital Marketing at Biomodal. Sam, are you with us? Hello, Sam. There you are. Welcome aboard, Sam. Where are you calling in from? Can we hear you, Sam? We cannot hear Sam. You are there, but we cannot hear you. All right. Well, welcome aboard, Sam. I'll let the gremlins in the background help sort out your audio issues. I'm sure we'll get that resolved here momentarily. Sam, welcome aboard. All right, everyone. While we get that sorted, I do want to bring our attention to an article published recently by Search Engine Land that talks about some new capabilities provided by Google Ads, including video view campaigns. Now, the article references studies that show that with video view campaigns, advertisers saw an average of 40% more views than in-stream skippable CPV campaigns. What's cool about the approach is that new video campaigns combine a variety of formats, including skippable in-stream ads, in-feed ads, and short ads. So my question to the group today is, what experience do you have with video view campaigns? Do they live up to the expectations, and how can we use them most effectively? I'll start with you, Suzanne. What is your experience with video view campaigns, and what are your thoughts?
Well, certainly video is an important part of any marketing mix, and I think all of us are using video in one way or another. My experience recently is really on the front end in demand gen. In the business that I'm in right now, we make cellular repeaters that work in any building. So the challenge is to getting to people that are running buildings, right? That's a very broad market. And the particular product we make, people don't know that you can fix this problem in a certain way. So it's very important that people understand that there's even a solution to it. So for something like that, where you're trying to get out and reach people for something that they may not know about, a video demand, a short video, a couple second capture, even to watch a video just at the beginning to raise awareness can be really a good thing. And especially some of these, um, they talk about the lookalike audiences where you can get adjacent audiences and capture them really quickly. It's a great thing where you can spread to audiences that might make sense in an automated way. So
All
for
right.
something like that, I think it's great. Mhm.
These video view campaigns are available for placement across all Google-owned operating properties. Jamie, what's your take on this article and your view of video view campaigns?
I think, excuse me, I think they are an important part of demand gen, and really any marketing activity. So many people, I mean, TikTok's a prime example of that. How many people are influencing buying decisions and just decision making in general, or even actions of others, and think about all the challenges and things that people are doing, and that it's all video content. And now it's, a lot of these people are now influencers just because they started doing something on a video camera, whether it was initially it started out kind of as a YouTube thing, and then it went to, to the other channels, and especially social media. We've been, as far as the lookalike audience, to Suzanne's point, we've been able to do that a lot of times through social. I know through Facebook, we've done several those types of campaigns, and on some level, some of the Google as well through display and retargeting. But I think that always video is going to be critical. People have short attention spans, so these little short clips are great. The in-roll or the mid-roll in-stream ads are frustrating to everybody, and a lot of times can have negative impacts on your brand in general. So pre-roll, post-roll, having your own sponsored videos out there is going to be critical, and I think it's only going to get more so as we go. But as far as the rollout here from Google, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes, and it always takes them a little time to kind of roll out or to work through the bugs and new things, and everybody's a little frustrated at first, but we tend to jump on the wagon and roll with it pretty quickly. So.
And Marina, this announcement from Google came out, I believe, in March. Have you had an opportunity to work with the new video view campaigns? What is your experience with these tools?
Not the new features. As of May of this year, I believe they were still in beta. I need to check back on that and see how live everything is right now. To Jamie's point, like usually it takes a little bit of time to work through the bugs. But I mean, this is all good news. Like finally, advertisers and the platforms are catching up to a long form trend of dynamic content. I'm in B2B software space, doing marketing for B2B software companies, and video has been one of the main channels for us, or content types for us, to show and explain the value proposition of complex tools for our buyers. So again, this is, kind of when things like that come out, you're like, why didn't that exist before? Like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok have been around, some of them for a while, some of them new-ish to the market, and have better video analytics, better video driven data, and finally, with I think the rise of AI, that's where we see a little bit more better data and better tools that we can be equipped to track and gather better intent data with video advertisements. So pleased and looking forward to trying that, and hopefully it's going to be productive.
And the gremlins in the background tell me that we have the audio issues with Sam sorted out. Sam, are you with us now?
I am now. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear, my friend. Thank you so
Excellent.
much. All right, Sam. So we've been talking about video demand or video view campaigns with and the article from Google that talks about the release of these new tools, also including demand gen campaigns that will leverage AI to help engage and drive customers, also available across all the Google-owned properties. What's your take on this article with video demand and demand gen campaigns? What's your take on these tools? Or will they be useful moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a use for them. I mean, they've announced the two different campaign types: the video exposure, just purely to just get in front of as many eyeballs as possible, and then the demand gen. I would probably argue that's probably more of a lead gen type campaign as part of a broader demand gen campaign. But I agree with Marina in that my background is also from B2B software, and now my current company, Biomodal, is in the life sciences industry. And when you've got complex messages and complex concepts to try and communicate, video is probably the best medium bar none to get that across. So I think the changes that they've announced are welcome.
Now, Sam, you mentioned lead gen and demand gen. I know when we talked earlier before the show, you mentioned that there is a distinction between the two. And before we move on to our points here, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about that. I do want to get to our points here in just a second. But from your point of view, what is the distinction that we should be considering when it comes to demand gen versus lead gen?
Sure. I mean, the term demand gen can have a few slightly different definitions depending on who you ask. But for me, it's really identifying companies or contacts, depending on if you're B2B, B2C, that are in market or almost in market with a problem that you can solve, basically. And then lead gen is sort of a subset of that, where you are trying to, or lead capture, sorry, is sort of the subset of that, of trying to actually get a name, get an email address, and get some qualifying information that then you can, then hand over a sort of sales ready opportunity to your sales team.
So an important distinction to keep in mind, especially as you're reading this article about the Google, I think that they use those terms somewhat interchangeably, perhaps not accurately. So it's an important distinction. Thank you, Sam. Let's move to our points for discussion today. And I'd like to start with Marina. And the point, the discussion point is increasing personalization and driving awareness and engagement. There's a lot to unpack there, Marina. Personalization, awareness, engagement. Let's talk a little bit about personalization, your experience with personalization and its importance. Technology certainly provides us with a lot of opportunities to personalize the experience. How do we do that? What are some of your perspectives and advice for bringing personalization that will help us drive awareness and engagement?
Well, in current highly competitive space and meeting competitive, we're competing for audience focus and attention. And again, like my background, B2B, software space, a lot of folks right now don't necessarily have the budgets that they had for buying tools, applications, software tools. So the only way to effectively reach those people is through personalized experiences and campaigns and messages. Authenticity is winning right now, and the first step to achieving it through speaking your target buyer's language and understanding their pain points, delivering the message accordingly. And when it comes to specific tools, like ABM-like tools have been around for a while. And with the rise of AI right now, and we kind of touched on that topic in our last session, they're getting more refined and better when it comes to personalized data that's driving that the result of intent data, cleaner intent data for us, the marketers, right? That we can act on, get more insights, and actually give that data to our sales teams to process, and it's more qualified and it's just cleaner. So with that kind of trend, and the personalization is key right now, and authenticity is key right now. What's more important, I think, for marketers is to do your homework and to understand your buyers. Like, there's no room for an error anymore. Again, because of the highly competitive nature of the audience that we're trying to target right now and fighting for that attention. So doing more work up front, learning and understanding your customer needs is key. We need to be able to talk directly to them before we start blasting the campaigns, whether it's, one-on-one, one-to-many, one-to-few, IBM-like campaigns. And fortunately, if we get that right up front, we now have plenty of tools, again, with AI-enabled tools right now in ABM space, that we can target them appropriately and gather better data and better results.
And Jamie, what is your experience with increasing personalization, some of the tools and techniques that you might recommend?
So, yep, you kind of have to look at it as a circle, right? The more information you have, the better you know your customers, the better you can target, the more personalized you can get with the message, the better the engagement you're going to have. And yes, AI does for sure help you with that, because it makes you more efficient in what you're doing if you use the right tools and apply them properly. And that's kind of been my experience too. Is I wholeheartedly agree with Marina. You have to know who you're buying. That's why customer personas, you hear this all the time, customer personas. And you have to have them for every market. If you have a product that serves 10 markets, you've got to have a persona, or know who you're marketing to in every one of those markets, because it's not a blanket message. A pain point that it solves in, say, automotive may not be a pain point that it solves in energy, even though it's part of the same process. So you have to really know your products, but you have to, more importantly, know your audience, because you have a product management team that knows your product. You have to know the industry, you have to know the markets, whether it be by location or vertical. And you have to ultimately know your buyer. And that comes down to having good, solid data, and paying attention to those cues. And it's not just a micro or a macro, it's how all of the things move together. The demographics by location, the demographics of the individuals that you're using. And so it's becoming increased in order to personalize. And really, if your message isn't personalized, you're out. And a lot of the spam filters will even catch it before you even have a chance, before it even gets delivered. Or, I don't know, I'm pretty tech savvy, but so my phone is separated. So if you're not on my call list, if you send me a text message, it goes to like some other folder that I check once a month. Right. So, you just have to be more savvy. You have to know your audience. You have to pay attention to even, the small cues and the large cues. And to do that, and if you do that, if you put in the work ahead of time, the end result's always much better.
Well, Suzanne, Jamie makes an incredibly important point. You've got to know your audience. It sounds simple. Perhaps it isn't. So how do I do that, though? I mean, it's got to go beyond just demographics. Suzanne, what are your tips for us in terms of learning who your audience is and then driving that personalization?
Yeah, it really does. And I agree with everything said. And I think I'd take it a step further as we keep delving down into this, to where you've got, Marina mentioned your industry, and then the pain points. And then we talked about, the problems that you're going to solve for a specific thing. And it's not the same across different industries and things like that. But you also get down to the buyer's journey and where they are in that journey, and their specific title and their role that they're playing in that buyer process, especially in a complex sale. You can't send the same information to the CFO that you send to the technical person anymore. They're just not interested. It looks like spam, even though it might be relevant. So it gets even more detailed than that. And really the challenges, like everyone has said, is using the data and the tools that we have, and things like progressive profiling, making sure that we're capturing information from our sales team as they're going through their conversations, and funneling it back into what we know about accounts, and really managing accounts well, so that we can understand those roles in that buying process, and then using it and using that intelligence to go back and be able to market properly as we go through this. But that journey is really important, especially we have a number of folks that are in technical marketing here. You can't send a general white paper to someone that's a PhD in the field, right? You have to tell them something they don't know already. And so you have to be careful to meet people where they are. And some of the, the listening tools that are out there and some of the, there's a lot of, advanced engagement tools that are contextual that are helpful with that. But again, it's very tricky, unfortunately.
If it
If you're
was
not
easy,
careful,
everyone would
yeah,
do it.
it sounds easy, and there's a lot of tools that'll
Right.
want to help you with this. But I work with service providers. If you try an AI tool around service providing, right, you're going to get a lot of different
Yeah.
things, and especially across the globe where words are different. They mean different things. So. uh,
Well, all right. We do have some questions coming in from our audience, and this one coming from Esme. Thank you, Esme. And if you have questions for our audience, please feel free to bring them into the Q&A. The reason I bring this up, I'd like to go to Sam on this. Marketers, it really leads us to our next data point, or our next discussion point. And marketers rely heavily on data to drive these types of personalizations and relevant content that speaks to their audience needs and appropriate offers and so forth. Nevertheless, privacy regulations can majorly affect the quality and accessibility of this data. And Esme is asking, what is your take on privacy concerns when it comes to personalization? Sam, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to earn the right to be in somebody's inbox, right? So it's about providing value. And I think that to be able to provide the right value, I mean, good demand gen is providing the right message to the right contact at the right time. And to go back to my three co-presenters, what they all sort of said, and that is knowing your customer, knowing the journey, and when you know that and you can provide the value at that time, then if you're doing it well enough, you should then receive opt-in level contacts, and in pretty much all global privacy regulations, opting in and providing consent is the gold standard of being able to contact somebody. And if you're going to be boring, you're not going to inform and or entertain along the journey, then you're going to lose that right. And people aren't going to look out for your contacts, whether it be in an inbox or over the phone or a display ad, etc. So yeah, it's about providing the right bit of information at the right time, which I know sounds easier said than done. But I mean, a way that that I can suggest that you're potentially doing that is if you know the narrative arc that your typical customer needs to go on, knowing that there could be variations in the process. So there's 5 things they need to learn, knowing and they could enter the point at any one of those 5, for example. Then knowing if you can then sort of help them on the journey in the order that they would like, so utilizing data, perhaps behavioral data or intent data, etc., to help them, give them the next step, and they in the path that they choose, so they can be educated around your solution. I think that is sort of the modern way of doing it, sort of best practice.
Now, Jamie, another big piece of data and much data that we rely on that you had mentioned when we were talking before is the integration of KPIs or key performance indicators into your strategy. I think that's an important topic because I know in my work on digital transformation talk, often those KPIs are sometimes overlooked in digital transformation efforts as well. And so I'm imagining that they can also be something that can be left perhaps out of the mix when it shouldn't. So tell me more about your perspectives on integrating KPIs into your strategies.
Yeah, you have to have something to measure against, right? You have to know whether or not your campaign is succeeding. And I think one thing everyone on this call can agree is the word that we are absolutely do not want to hear from anybody else is attribution. Like, I mean, here, how did you, how did this tactic go? How did this go? Well, we have these metrics. Okay, but I don't know what that tells me. Well, I'm trying to explain attribution to you and the fact that true attribution doesn't really exist. And we don't have that capability yet. But what we can do is take separate the signals from the noise. And we can utilize the metrics that we have, whether it be defining MQL or marketing qualified leads versus sales qualified leads, and then finding their quality score, their conversion rates. And, those are just a few things that we do. But realistically, if you're only looking at ROI, then you're not seeing big picture. And that's not what demand gen is supposed to do. Demand gen is more about being full funnel, right? Because you have people who've never heard of your product, never heard of your brand. Part of it's awareness. Then you move down into the funnel, into that little piece of lead gen. And that's ultimately when as you start managing up, and I have these discussions in the C-suite all the time. It's like, well, how do I know that marketing is working? I'm like, are you selling products? Because you just launched. That's how you know marketing is working. And I've had other clients historically where we started doing a full, the full funnel of activity, absolute total 100% demand gen. And within 6 weeks, they saw sales spike. They cut budgets, they rolled back, and then all of a sudden they come back and they said, well, marketing's not doing its job because we're not selling anymore. And it's like, you cut my budget in half. Yes, sales are going to decline, and it's going to be on this scale. As you go up, some things go down. As you go down, some things go up. And so this is kind of how the cycle runs. And so, but to be able to know that, you have to know what you need to measure. And all of that ties back into your overall business goals and objectives. One thing that you're starting to see as a trend in marketing is becoming more and more involved in other decision-making roles, not just in, okay, well, where am I going to place an ad today? Or what's this content look like? But it's in other things like, for example, listening to the data, watching where some users come in, who engages through platforms like HubSpot or through our CRMs. We see, hey,
Did we lose Jamie?
I think so.
Oh, we may have lost Jamie right in the mid-sentence there. All right. Jamie has frozen on us. Well, that's a chilly thing to do. I'm sure that our gremlins in the background will work with Jamie to get her back on board. So let me move to Marina now. Marina, we've been talking about data. We've been talking about KPIs. We've been talking about data for personalization. Which data best measure the effectiveness of our activities? We've got to measure our results, balance it against our KPIs, against our budget. So which data do you believe would be the best measure of effectiveness that we should be considering?
I love talking about data and KPIs. I mean, all of us marketing leaders, that's what we kind of get measured on, right? So I would usually start with high level, what I call stakeholder KPIs. So like what you and your teams are usually measured on. And the three kind of pillar KPIs that I always go back to, like I present to the board and in the C-suite, is first, more or less top of the funnel, like high intent leads, like month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year, how we're trending. Again, with using variety of tools and integrated tools to get to the data point. From there, how much opportunities, like how much pipeline did we bring in or help bring in? And then of course, how much revenue do we bring in? I mean, revenue marketing is a must. We have to kind of be able to some sort of capacity to the best of our abilities to show real numbers, real pipeline, real revenue. To Jamie's point, attribution is a pain point for a lot of marketers, and not necessarily in channel attribution during the customer journey. It's also in pipeline attribution when it comes to marketing activities. Marketers often kind of have to fight for the piece of revenue that they're bringing in and proving the value of those campaigns, and whether it's influenced or directly sourced from marketing activities, that's always kind of going to be a little bit of a pain point. Therefore, it's more than ever important to partner with your sales teams and be part of the overarching revenue engine, and not necessarily be just a channel to the sales performance, and look at things holistically. And from there, once you kind of have these kind of high level executive KPIs figured out, you trickle down to the systems and data sources that feed into those KPIs. So again, we're looking at intent data through your ABM tools or Google Analytics. They're getting better. And integrations are probably your number one priority. So whatever tech stack you're using or tools in your tech stack, they have to be plugging into this executive KPI dashboards that you're showing on the front end to your board and executive leaders. So plugging into your CRMs to your CRM through your marketing automation tools, other MarTech tools, and making sure that you're feeding appropriate clean data into those dashboards where that you're producing this kind of executive level data points for your executive teams.
We are here today with Marina DiValia, Suzanne Corbo, Jamie Grabert, and Sam Wiltshire. We're here talking about demand generation. Now, Sam, I'd like to move to you for our third discussion point today, to start us off anyway. We've mentioned already here, just in passing, AI. Sam, what do you feel will be the impact of AI on demand generation?
Well, I think that obviously there's going to be a huge amount there. I mean, in a previous life, I managed a team of 9 SDRs, and I feel in that industry it's going to almost flood the industry, I think, because it will allow for scale, but unpersonalized scale, more than we get today. So I think if you can harness it, do it well, and strive for quality as part of it, I think that's where you'll differentiate yourselves from your competitors. As I said, I mentioned before, you've got to earn the right to be in somebody's inbox. So you're going to be making sure that you are giving them value as opposed to just spammy sales messages. But yeah, it's making sure that you can do it right. That is and which I know again is a bit of a cop-out answer, but ensuring that you are really understanding what your customers, your prospects sort of need, and sort of say ChatGPT, you got the correct prompts, etc., to really create the right messages for the right contacts, if you know what I mean.
And Suzanne, what do you feel are the most important technologies that we should be considering today when it comes to demand generation?
I guess just technology-wise, certainly everything that folks have talked about in terms of the marketing automation tools and everything we're using to measure. I think taking advantage of those measurement tools to understand really operationally what's delivering the most value in terms of demand, and using that to filter out and taking it a step further to see what actually is driving the sales and driving the goals that you need. And trying to hone in, as Jamie said, from separating the noise from the signals, right, and getting down to what matters. I think the biggest challenge, really, in some places I've seen, and I've been at a lot of different companies with a lot of different tools, is there's so much data coming in, and unless you've got a really good team where IT and marketing are in sync, and you've got someone in IT that's helping with a Tableau or something like that, that's pulling in all your systems and really understands what marketing data looks like, you're going to have a lot of noise in there, right? So I think being able to separate out what is important. So if you can identify a couple things, like take, for example, I've been involved in a lot of complex sales, right? And one of the things that always has to happen is a demo has to happen. So one of the things I try to do is pick out those really key stepping stones and say, okay, let's measure a critical point here and see if we can measure the number of demos we're doing. I know if that number goes up, my sales are going to go up. I know that if there's certain other things that happen. Nobody makes a sale without doing X. If you can use the data to find and sift out what those critical points are, and sort of drive and again, using the analysis of the data and not just the data and the counts to get to that, I think that's where the tools are really coming in handy, because you've got everything at your hands now, right, to do that deep analysis. And to me, that's where the value's coming in. And you can really do that narrow targeting. You can look for signals to people that are ready to buy. You can open up a lot more channels of communication. For me, that's one of the things that's really mattered a lot. When marketing automation came online, everyone put lots of forms in, right? We customized our forms and got forms everywhere. Oh, we got new forms, right? And I've found, with chat and all kinds of people texting in and using all these different ways, getting a lot more interesting leads. And some people just want to drop an email in, right?
Yeah.
So having lots of channels to communication is one of the real advantages, and being able to keep track of those, which was
All right.
difficult before. Mhm.
Now, Jamie, welcome back. By the way, you froze on us
Yeah.
and now you're back. So thank you
Sorry.
for coming back. I was curious in this topic of what technology is, do you recommend? What are good technologies to consider? I was curious about some of the old technologies that we're all familiar with. And in my research, I was interested to find that according to research, LinkedIn is the most effective social media tool for B2B lead generation. 82% of social media leads come from Twitter, and marketers with blogs are 13 times as likely to drive positive ROI. Effective blog headlines drive 500% more traffic. So LinkedIn, social on Twitter, and blogs, these are sort of old school tools. Jamie, what is your view on this? Do these old tools still serve a purpose for us? And indeed, are they as bedrock as these stats seem to imply?
I think it goes back to the original point, which is knowing your audience. Generationally speaking, your audience is like different tools. If you're marketing, for example, to a Gen Zer, you absolutely want to have a TikTok or something that's a little more fresh and modern in your, maybe even Discord channels and things like that, which kind of does go back to a blog. You want to be taking part in Reddit. I think if you look into that stat, Reddit is a huge resource for people, at least here in the US, that want to do more research and things on products. HubSpot did a study about a year and a half ago, and it said that on a fully digital campaign, you're going to need 6 to 8 touch points. That's with no human interaction. You're going to need 6 to 8 digital touch points before a user will move far enough down into even the decision-making phase to buy a product. So what that means is that we have to use all these channels. Do I think that LinkedIn is still important for B2B? Absolutely, because most of your key decision makers, your main stakeholders are on LinkedIn, but they're also part of maybe the late baby boomers, Gen Xers, and some early millennials. And those are vital channels for communication in B2B in those channels. But you're starting to see more even OTT, CTV taking shape and running some video ads, back to the video ad on the topic, to create demand, because you can sit on your couch and engage with the content. To some channels, I have some people that I work with. If I'm working with a baby boomer, believe it or not, still traditional media. Some of them want a direct mail or even a going sent to them, but it still goes back to the content, because if that subject line isn't something that catches them, it's going to get file 13. So you want to make sure that this. It all goes back to knowing your audience, knowing those open rates, and that's having, for example, an open rate is targeting your audience, making sure you have the correct information, but also what is your subject line? Is it something that's going to capture their attention? And you monitor and measure that back to Suzanne's, and so we have our CRMs, our HubSpots, our things like that tell us those answers. So it really is, do the bedrock things work? Yes, but I'm going to say this, and I will say this every day. I say this probably 100 times a day. It depends. It depends on the audience.
Yeah.
It depends on the message. It depends on the tactic. It depends even to an extent on the time of day. If you send me something late in the afternoon, there's a really good chance I may not see it for a couple of days. because it gets shoved down to the end of my inbox and I'm triaging. So if there's something you really want me to see, get in the mix. Don't do it too late in the day. But I'm, that's part of knowing your audience and paying attention back to that's why having a data visualization tool like a Looker or Google Data Studio, something that you can look at quickly and make decisions. That's why having all of these tools, and they all work together. It's a really tightly knit ecosystem where you have to have them all, but it also goes back into knowing your KPIs, knowing what metrics you need to pay attention to. And then, that's really what
I think too, Jamie, to your point of the 6 or 7 touches, we're finding that before people ever reach out and contact, they're 60-70% down the way in their decision making. So that content that they're seeing and finding, it needs to be moving them down the funnel too.
All right. We are running short of time. I do want to try to get to questions for our guests from our audience. If you have a question for our guests and the time that we have left, please pop it into the Q&A feature. Marina, I'd like to go to you for this question from Laura. Laura, thank you for your question and contribution today. Laura is asking, how do you nurture your leads effectively? Well, we could probably talk about that for the next hour, but Marina, do you have some advice for Laura about lead nurturing?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that's where I heavily rely on the importance of the alignment between marketing and sales. So it's not necessarily just marketing, putting your warm leads into some sort of nurture campaign in HubSpot or Marketo, whatever that is, sending automated messages. It's also bringing in some of the early touches from the sales team, understanding the behaviors and the patterns, not necessarily starting calling them right away, but they should be there. Some sort of a human should be there to understand the touches that are working, that are not working. Going back to Jamie's point, it's always a healthy mix, especially in B2B marketing. You can't necessarily just rely on email to target or nurture your leads. In our space, it's a mix of events, whether virtual and in person. Thankfully, now we're back to in person. Understanding where your buyer likes to consume content. A lot of times it's in-person stuff, little roundtables, conferences and such, where they read and consume content that provides them value, right? So understanding where you should put your content, whether it's some communities or other ecosystems that they like to connect to. And of course, the mix of channels is still working between LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever your buyers are using to educate themselves in their buyer's journey. So again, using the mix of channels, not necessarily relying on traditionally lead nurturing as just an email drip of some sort, and bringing in your sales counterparts into conversations and trying to engage with them on the value of these leads, understanding how they flow through this process, and kind of triage where they can touch these leads across all your marketing platforms and some events as well, if that's something that is in the mix for your customer journey.
All right, very good. Well, where has our time gone? We are almost out of time. I really want to thank Suzanne Corbo, Jamie Grabert, Marina DeValia, and Sam Wiltshire for being with us today. Folks, in our time remaining, I'm wondering if you could each provide us with one quick action item that our listeners can use to take advantage of your ideas and advice. Suzanne, I'd like to start with you. 30 seconds. Do you have a tip for us or an action item?
I think it's really to identify those key milestones along the way that are good indicators of a potential sale, right? Steps that people need to go through before they're going to buy your product. And if you can do that and find indicators and drive your campaigns towards those actions, I think you're going to be more successful, and to make sure to measure that.
That is Suzanne Corbo, Senior Director of Marketing Connectivity. Thank you, Suzanne. Jamie, do you have an action item for us?
Yeah, don't just pay attention to the ROI, but pay attention or focus on one metric, but pay attention to the big picture, both micro and macro. Use data you get on engagement to look into new markets and verticals and verify that you are marketing to the right customer or identify new customers. And then just pay attention to trends in your existing verticals and and
Mhm.
especially your competitors know who you're competing against, and sometimes that's you. So
All right, that is Jamie Grabbert, Chief Marketing Officer at Maple. Thank you, Jamie. And Marina, 30 seconds, a tip for us or an action item for our audience today.
More than ever is it's important to understand your customers, their needs, their pain points. Go back to basics. Again, we're in a competitive environment with tight budgets. Talk to your customers, to your current customers, find out what brought them to you in the first place, why they bought it, what resonated. And just remember that we are marketers that are still authentic storytellers, creative producers, and relationship builders. Like, we have to kind of hone in that message and remember that outside of the AI noise that is happening right now.
All right. Thank you, Marina. Marina Divalia, Marketing Advisor for Playbook Lab. And finally, Sam Wiltshire, Head of Marketing, Digital Marketing at Biomodal. Sam, do you have an action item for us today?
Yeah, a very simple tip. When you go out and you build demand through your pipeline, through your funnel. Obviously, you're not going to win every single opportunity that is created. One thing just to keep an eye on is LinkedIn for job changes amongst people that you have worked with in the past, whether they be opportunities that have ended in closed lost, or key people in the companies that you've dealt with in the past. If they move to a new opportunity in their own careers, that's a lot of the demand gen work has already happened with those people. So reach out to them when congratulate them on those opportunities, and then seek out whether in their new roles they have similar problems that they've faced that you've helped them solve in the past.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. What a great panel today. Your perspectives and advice were spot on. Thank you so much. I hope we get a chance to talk again soon. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, too. Join us again next time when we return from summer break on September 19th at 1600 British time. We will talk with another great panel of experts about choosing the right marketing attribution model. It should be another great discussion. Meanwhile, if you'd like to find me, you can do so on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect there. Check me out. I'm Kevin Crane. And check out my weekly audio podcast, Everyday MBA. And that will do it for this episode of MarTech Talk. Until next time, I'm Kevin Crane. Thank you for watching.